Well, we've been talking here this morning about things that happen in divorces. And one of the things that happens a lot in divorces is that you have to dispose of or transfer or handle what are the marital assets. And a marital asset is pretty much anything that has value or that's accruing value during the marriage. And most of the time in the average middle class, middle income type couple, the two big assets they've got is retirement plan and a house. Retirement plan, I will leave for another day to discuss about that. But here, right now, I want to talk about real estate. Usually, both parties are on the deed. That's not unusual. And even when they're not both on the deed, if it was acquired during the marriage and only one person's on the deed, despite the civil law of real estate that says it's not a joint assets, in divorce, if it was gotten during the marriage, it's a 100% marital asset, which means you have to figure out what to do about it. You have a couple of choices, some bad ones and some reasonable ones. A bad one, in my opinion, and I've seen it, people have insisted sometimes, we're going to stay on the deed together, keep joint ownership until the kids get out of high school or something like that. Keep them in the home they know. We'll sell the house then, and let's do that. If a couple is getting along reasonably well and civilized, that can work. But often when you're getting divorced, it isn't going to work. That's why you're not staying married, and you're gambling if you are getting along well. You'll keep on getting along well after the divorce happens, when often a year or two later things do happen to come up. So it's usually appropriate and desirable that you decide what to do with the house while you're still married before you get divorced and settle that issue in the divorce action. And when you do that, there are a couple of elements that matter. Two legal, one emotional. Let me do the emotional one first. Somebody's committed to owning the house. They want to stay there. Maybe that person can afford it and they can manage it. Nothing wrong with that. When it's somebody that cannot afford it, a person with not good income stream or lucky to have it, and they want to stay there because they keep a roof over their children's head, their friends in schooling, that's a very desirable and understandable attitude, and legally it's not a very good decision to make. And I try to encourage people not to do that because it can sink you after the case, and then you'll be very, very unhappy. That's the emotional side. The legal side is twofold. Somebody can get the house, one of the two couples. When somebody gets the house, most often there's also a mortgage. And although it isn't always this way, usually they're both on the mortgage too. So when two people are on the deed and they're both on the mortgage, and somebody gets the house, the basic rules are the person that gets the house winds up having to get the mortgage. What do you have to do? Well, first of all, there has to be enough economic power on the side of the person that wants to keep the house to refi it to be able to have that mortgage transferred. And very often, you're going to have to give the other party a share of the value of the equity of that house. If we understand that equity means market value minus mortgage balance. And HELOC is one of those two. So it may be a $400,000 house with a $200,000 mortgage. Well, all right, somebody's getting a $200,000 asset with a $200,000 debt. And if it's a 50-50 case, and all there is just maybe the house, that person who's getting the house is going to have a $300,000 liability. $200,000 asset, half of as well the mortgage they have to refi to get the other person their money, unless maybe, fortunately, they got all that money buried in the mattress someplace or something equally silly. They don't. Average couples live from week to week, month to month, and don't often have a whole lot of money piled up somewhere. Though it does happen too. And I don't always get people that are strapped for cash. I get people sometimes that are very well heeled too. But in an average case, you have to consider that. And so that's the secondary thing. You have to work out, can the person who wants to keep the house afford to keep it? If it's my client and they can't afford to keep it, I try very, very hard to help them understand that unless they're real sure they can refi, either on their own merits or friends or relatives can help them do it, then it's not wise to want to get the house, or they won't be able to refi. If you can't refi, you shouldn't expect your spouse to say, oh, that's fine, I'll trust you to pay the mortgage. Well, maybe you will, and maybe you won't. But there's no maybe in my mind that they're not likely to trust you to do that in the average case. And so if you can't do it, they're not going to agree to the transfer you're trying to do by settlement, and they can take you to court and force you to sell the house or transfer it to them because the court does not want, the law does not want somebody to take a marital asset, not give the other side their value for it, and then trust them they'll get it done down the road. And anyhow, if you're getting divorced, why do you want to practically stay married as if you were still married by getting divorced and still being stuck on the deed with each other and having to deal with each other down the road? Probably not the best thing to do in the average case. So that's the secondary thing. The third issue, besides transferring the property, and this happens a great deal too, you agree to sell the property, either because neither party really wants it, neither party can afford it on their own because you could when you were married and living with shared money, but when you're not sharing anymore, the reality is both people get poorer, and they may not be able to afford the mortgage when there's not another income coming in to help support all that. So you have to sell it. When you sell the property, the same answer as before. You share the equity, but now it's simple. You don't have to know what the value of the property is. All you have to know is what did it sell for. And when you know what it's sold for, that is the value. The mortgage will get paid off. You don't have to own the mortgage now. And now all you're sharing is the proceeds of the sale. And that's done one of two ways. At the table or the closing. You know, you just sold the house. Now there's money being paid by the title company from the buyer, and you share the money. In many cases, however, there's more assets than that going on. You're selling the house in advance of divorce. Nothing's settled yet. What happens? One of two things. The couple can be civilized and agree that they will, at the table, share some or all of the proceeds. If it's some, the rest goes in the escrow account till the case is completed, or all. But it's always done either if it's not a 50-50 case, and I should emphasize, in divorces unlike California, there's no such thing as an automatic 50-50. It can be an uneven split, usually in favor of the party that's less well off economically. So when that happens, it doesn't have to be a 50-50 split, and probably shouldn't be. And if it's not that, you have to have it worked out that the split of the money is going to be without regard to what it might have been, and settle that up later from either other money or remaining money, and you do it then. And that's where a lot of the arguments come from. Because people say, gee, there's two of us, there's one house, why isn't it 50-50? And the answer is because the couple has been watching too much television. And I mean this in all sincerity. Pretty much all shows that involve lawyers and people involved in court and stuff, they're all written and made in movies in California. In California, they have community property. Everything's 50-50 right down the line. And people see that. And so they think that's what should happen. Secondarily, they think to themselves, well, it's going to happen fine because I'm right. I'm the good guys. The court will see that. That's the other mistake people make. Because in real life, it isn't true that the good guys always win. The bad guys win a lot. So when you say it's going to come out the good guys winning, that's based on your experience of not what's real. And then they say, well, that's all right, we'll get it done. Doesn't happen right away either. Court work, litigation work can take a long time sometimes. People are often amazed how long it takes things getting done through the court system. Unlike TV, where everything happens overnight. And the third thing is, well, I want to fight for what I want. And, well, that's a very understandable thing to do and often very proper. But when you want to fight for what you want, you're asking your lawyer to spend more time. And time is what lawyers tend to charge for. You have to consider for a minute, am I going to spend a lot more money trying to get what I want without a lot of guarantee I'm going to get it? Well, if it's worth it, and I do the math for people, I might say, look here, if you go to court, you might get 5% more, whatever that number may happen to be. If you settle right now, you might get 5% less, but you won't be paying legal fees to do all that, and there's no risk you might not get the 5% more. Why would you want to spend more money just to make me have more money when you don't have to? I'm not in this business primarily to get people's money. It's not a hobby. I do it because I want to make a living at it. But at the same time, I'm not in the business of taking people's money either to prove how tough I can be or because I can. I'm looking out for people's interests and where they're really coming from. So remember, when you watch TV shows, you're going to see things happen right away. That's number one. You're going to see that the good guys always win. They want the sponsors, want the people watching to be happy, number two. And nobody on TV gives lawyers any money. Check it out. And you know what? I've been thinking about it. Real cases are exactly like that, except for those three things. So remember, when it's your money, It's your property. It's your life. When it really matters, the choice is simple. When it really matters, the choice is simple.